sir, I was trying to comprehend the distinction between caste system and the tribe system.
Okay.
Uh, like the way you discussed about the caste tribe continuum also.
Okay.
And then other most important thing I was trying to understand about the tribes in.
Now, just 1 second. What did you find is the difference between caste and tribe? So let us look at that, caste and tribe.
So, like you say, caste is hierarchical, but tribe is not. Tribe, as you say, it lives in its a kind of independent group of people where there is no hierarchy within. So,
Just
uh,
1 second. You mean to say there is no hierarchy within a tribe? Can't try some tribes be
that is what I
possible?
think, sir. I don't know if I comprehend.
Okay.
Within the tribe, I don't think there should be a hierarchy. Like if there is a Munda group, there should not be any.
Suppose a tribe is at a horticultural stage. Can't there be hierarchy within the tribe?
Uh, tribe is what, sir? Horticultural stage.
Suppose a tribe is at a horticultural stage.
Okay.
So can't there be hierarchy within?
Yeah. So it seems, but sir, like there are multiple tribes which don't have hierarchy actually. So I don't know.
That is true. There may be there may be multiple tribes without hierarchy. That is true. But can't there be tribes with hierarchy within?
There can be, sir. There can
There can be,
be.
isn't it? But then what is the hierarchy that the tribe may not have in a definitional sense? So there can be hierarchy within tribe,
Yeah.
within a tribe.
Yes, sir. Like the
But what
intra-tribe hierarchy will not be there, sir.
exactly inter-tribe?
Inter-tribe, yes.
Inter-tribe. So tribe as such is not a unit in the hierarchy. But
Yes, sir.
within a tribe, there can be hierarchy.
And so then comes the point when you talk about how British created like the whole tribes under one umbrella.
No, we'll come to that. But let us discuss this tribe and caste.
Yes, sir.
So there can be hierarchy within a tribe given its economic stage. A horticultural tribe may have ranked society. Okay. A tribe, even at an agricultural stage, may have classes. But tribe, because it is isolated or independent, that itself is not ranked vis-a-vis other units. Whereas a caste invariably means it is ranked vis-a-vis other castes. Okay. So there is nothing like inter-tribal ranking, but there is inter-caste ranking. Caste cannot exist without being a part of Varna, which means caste cannot exist without being hierarchical. So caste is part of Hinduism, part of Varna, part of hierarchy. It is occupational specialization. Whereas a tribe, first of all, most tribes don't have hierarchies because many of them belong to simple economies. But even when tribe has a hierarchical system, yeah, it is not hierarchical in relation to other tribes or other castes. In that sense, tribe has an independent existence. Okay, but tribes within themselves can have stratification. So there can be class societies, there can be ranked societies, but most of the tribes have the least amount of hierarchy. Okay, so that is about tribe and caste. Okay, Nikhil, you want to say something else on tribe and caste?
Sir, like, is there any other difference also other than this hierarchy thing, tribe and caste? I was just thinking if we can like if there was no I didn't find like I don't remember any mention of such other difference.
Fine, fine. So hierarchy, isolated, rank. Okay. Now, can you tell me? I believe that one very important thing the article does is How precisely tribe may become a caste? Nikhil, did you follow?
Sir, so when you talk about this
How is
tribe,
tribe becoming a caste?
a tribe becoming a caste.
Hmm. How does, I mean, you understood that the tribes were becoming caste, right?
Yes, sir. So you talked about this tribe caste continuum also.
Continuum.
Some tribes are
That's true.
close to caste, some castes are
But
very.
how is a tribe becoming a caste? Can you give the process of how tribe finally becomes a caste?
So, sir, I think like we discussed earlier also, so tribe can be absorbed in the structure, the Hindu structure of caste.
Exactly. Tribe can be absorbed in the Hindu structure of caste. That's true. But how does that take place? Okay. Somebody else? Vishal.
Sir, it is a
Vishal, can you tell me, what do you think are important things in that article, which you found is more insightful?
uh, I found two things. Earlier, how tribes are absorbed into Hinduism, the
Exactly.
way they work,
Hmm.
and in the more contemporary times, how tribes are asserting their identity.
Okay, very good. Very good. Now tell me the first part. Suppose there are chinsus. How will suppose now they may not become caste, but how will chinsus, how might have somebody like chinsus would become a caste over a period of time? Can you explain the process?
Yeah. So, caste is basically an occupational specialization.
Okay,
So, for example, if Chenchus for some reason have come into contact with an Hindu society,
okay.
and gradually
Just one second. Is it likely that the chinsus come into Hindu society or Hindu society goes there?
most likely the Hindu society going there.
Most likely Hindu society goes there. Hindu society is expanding. Okay.
So when the Hindu
But for
society,
all you know, chinsus might have been somewhere nearby and they ran away to, to the forest as Hindu society expanded. That is the reason why tribes are in inaccessible areas. Okay, because they moved away, who didn't want to be absorbed, moved away to inaccessible areas, hills and forests. Okay, so now Hindu society moves towards chinsus. What
yeah.
happens then?
So uh, gradually, because of multiple factors like uh, acculturation, and then because of say
Before,
westernization.
before the acculturation, what may be one very important factor?
So when the Hindu society interacts with tribes, so they may have some kind of influence, and depending on the kind of work the tribes used to do,
Hmm.
or the kind of opportunities that they may be provided,
Hmm.
they may take up a kind of occupation,
Okay.
and over time, based on the purity rules of the
Just one
occupation,
second, just one second. Let us be slow. Tell me, what do you think will be the main thing? Is it occupation or Hindu influence in general?
I think it is both, sir. Probably
Will they
it's
will the
majorly,
people pick up Hindu first, or will they pick up? They may pick up occupation, economic activity.
they may pick up economic activity first.
According to whom they may pick up? According to any theory, they who would say that they are bound to come from economic activity and not the other way around. What is that school?
The Marxist school,
That's all. Materialism.
materialism.
Okay. How occupation changes first, and after that, other aspects of culture. People are not fascinated by ideas just like that or culture, but first economy, and from economy, other things follow. So there is an occupational link There is an occupational link. That is one. Okay, next continue. Occupational link would mean what?
Some kind of specialization is introduced.
Some kind of specialization. Occupational link would mean some kind of specialization. And then some specialization would mean what else?
Specialization would mean a caste.
Caste. So how does hierarchy come into picture here?
So, there are the article identified two ways. If the most likely the tribes, because of lack of opportunities, they take up jobs at the lower end of the spectrum,
Okay.
and the people who do those jobs are mostly the lower caste.
Okay.
So if there is no hierarchy within the tribe, the whole group takes up the lower caste. But if there is some kind of hierarchy, then the ones doing the most kind of remunerative work may take up higher caste, and those doing less work may take up lower caste.
And sometimes don't you also see the possibility that to begin with it is equal, but then given the opportunities, it may split. Isn't it? More remunerative work, some kind, and less remunerative work, another kind. For example, now among Brahmins, there are many Brahmins. Some specialize in death ritual. Those specializing in death rituals are of lower kind. Madhigas also. Music instruments is higher kind. Leather related work, lower kind. In Mangali, medical work, higher kind. Shaving, lower kind. So sometimes the caste can split. Okay. Can you tell me, okay, that's about tribe to caste conversion, but how will caste split? This we discussed earlier, but let me review it. Why will caste split?
They choose not to give their daughters to.
That's true. But when will some people choose not to give?
If there is an increased difference in wealth.
Exactly. Okay. So it means same caste may move in different directions. Some specializing in a higher end, some specializing in lower end. And finally, the disparities are so much that it splits into two castes. That is the reason we have thousands of castes. So do you see in all these things, economy is playing a role. And then after that, culture. And then endogamy. It's over. Economy, culture, and endogamy. A new caste is created. So interaction means specialization. And specialization means hierarchy, allocation. So higher remunerative, higher the thing in the caste. Why I explain in such a detail, Ambedkar gave a theory, I'll give more details of it later, that at one time there were no untouchables and then some kind of a war took place and then the untouchability emerged. I'll give more details, but that is wrong. I don't think it ever happened like that. Ambedkar got many things about caste wrong. This is one such. Because people think, people wonder why caste come, why did lower caste accept this position? It is not so. Caste system is exactly like class system. That is why I spend so much time on why poor have become poor. Poor have not become poor in 1 year. Not a warfare between the upper caste, the rich and the poor. No. It is over a period of time they found themselves to be like that. That is exactly how I think the caste came. Untouchability also came like that. Untouchability is nothing but extreme form of application of pollution rules. I'll give more details on Ambedkar's theory, but he wrote a book titled Who Are Untouchables and he gave these wrong theories. So whereas anthropological methods, N.K. Bose, the way N.K. Bose explained tribal methods of absorption is very, very insightful. So it is over a period of time, taking up different activities and finally ending up as a caste. So anthropological account is more insightful. And which also means Hinduism is a result of absorption. That is another point that we should notice. It is not that everybody born here is a Hindu. Hinduism is a result of absorption. And in this, ranking is central. Ranking is central. So economic interaction, specialization, occupation, ranking, and on the top of it, pollution norms, endogamy. So how is class system, tell me now, how is, I mean, put it in different way, how is caste system different from class system? Vishal, can you say? Vishal.
So earlier, as we discussed, caste system, there is mobility.
Mobility
From the lower to higher, and higher to lower is also possible.
But there is, we said there is a difference in mobility. There is a mobility in the caste system also.
Yeah. So individual level, there is mobility for class.
Individual and family level. Remember, individual means family only. Okay. So individual and family level mobility is there in a class, whereas in a caste, no individual and family level. It is a group, which means mobility is a feature of both. Whether individual mobility is a feature is an issue. So caste can move up, but of course, though slowly. So that is one. And another thing is, how is caste different? That is one case which we discussed. Next, now applying these things, how is caste different? How caste can be more ruthless apart from mobility?
Maybe opportunities.
Opportunities blocked. But how about pollution norms? Very clear pollution norms are there in the caste system, but in a class system, pollution norms are very subtle. It is not that the poor people are not discriminated, but the discrimination is much more subtle. Pollution norms become status indicators. If you are not applying a pollution norm, somehow you become lower. So if you allow lower caste people into your house, you are being polluted. Whereas there is no such thing in a class system. And then rigid endogamy. I'll ask you something about the examination. Without thinking much, you answer it. Suppose the question is on class and caste. What is it that you will use from this lesson? The question is on class and caste, which we did long ago. Can you use something of what you did today? It's good you are taking time. I'm happy. You are not blurting out. Write about the conversion process. Now you know how the caste is formed. Do you know earlier we discussed how class is formed and not caste is formed? We just said caste system means ethnicity difference. Ethnicity should be a factor in caste. That's what we discussed. But today we are looking at minutely what it means. Earlier we discussed caste system versus class system. Surplus as a condition, ethnicity and second condition. But now we are discussing how precisely a caste is formed. It is about a group, number one, economic activity and pollution norms. So now you can say pollution norm is a very powerful difference between class and caste. So this is how you enrich your answers. So when we are doing the first chapter, we'll confine to the first chapter. When you do the second chapter, remember, when you are writing first chapter, you include the chapter 2 also. That's how you should go about. So I want you to include what we are doing under tribal India in everything, including gender. Write about Chansu woman from Naga. That's how you should write. If you are writing about socialization, you write about socialization of a Bill boy. Wow. Don't think of only upper caste Hindus, upper caste Hindu girls and upper caste Hindu boys. Because sociology is about cultural diversity. Remember, it is about study of diversity and change. Tribes provide a very clear example of how they were and what they have become and what they are going to be. In ethics class, we said, why don't you write about tribe when you are writing about an administration? And you know, in yesterday's paper, the question was on tribes only. Okay, so tribe can be a very powerful, a new source to your answers. When you're writing about administration, write about tribal administration. When you write about gender, gender across tribes. Nationalism, bring tribes. Can be a source of unusual and rare examples. Socialization, bring tribes. Okay, so conversion of tribe into caste is a very important insight, because it is an insight into how Hinduism is formed. It is an insight into how caste is different from class. And you know, there are so many things we covered. For example, a lot of cultural process, how culture transfers. Okay. Now, Vishal, can you tell me, what do you know about cultural transmission from that article? How does culture flow and why it flows?
So, in this article, we talked about a form of acculturation called Hinduization.
Exactly. Acculturation. We use the word acculturation. Okay. And then,
So, because of this interaction,
is Hinduization an example of acculturation?
sir, I have confusion here. In the article, you mentioned. So we talked about the dominant party there, and then we in say K Bose section, you mentioned that it's not imposing
Exactly.
on them. And then in another section, we talked about acculturation as a negative connotation, where the majority is imposing their culture on the minority.
I think if it is imposition, you call it assimilation.
But
Acculturation doesn't include a force element. I don't know. I'll check again. But did I say acculturation includes force?
You distinguished between acculturation and emulation.
Emulation. That's true.
Uh,
No, I didn't say acculturation and emulation. I said assimilation and emulation. Assimilation has an element of negativity, whereas emulation doesn't. You can check. I'll also check.
So Sanskritization and acculturation.
Yes. Sanskritization, acculturation, westernization, all are similar process. Hinduization. Okay, all. I said assimilation is a negative thing, not acculturation. And
Assimilation, yes, sir. My bad.
emulation is different. Emulation, people are emulating. But in all these factors, economy is playing a role. But do you know what I consider one very significant statement I made in that notes? Can you guess? I mean, you need to guess not about what you consider, but what I consider, which is beyond tribe, caste, or anything. Which
So,
an occasion used as an occasion to say something which has very serious implications. Who will at least try to guess? The question is,
I'll try.
what do I think that I made one way? What do you think about what I think?
I'll try, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I think it is superior people with superior culture with blind emulation losing out their
Exactly, thank
culture.
you. Thank you. That's the state of India. Just because somebody is economically doing well, you are blindly following. Economy is the reference point. So many times I use the word, this need not be rational. This is not rational. Somebody is doing economically well. Let's leave it like that. He's doing, and let us try to follow something of it. But why do you have to change everything of your culture, everything of what you are? It's not necessary. India trying to be powerful, India trying to follow GNP is all this unnecessary emulation. We have the right to develop because you developed. It's a meaningless talk. Put their dollar on your note. Why Gandhi and then Buddha symbols, all kinds of symbols everywhere? This is hypocrisy. They kept dollar there, and there is no hypocrisy in America, but this is hypocrisy. You have Buddha symbol, Gandhi symbol on every 500 rupee note. What does Gandhi have anything to do with what is going on? So economy determining the culture itself is a wrong kind that shouldn't take place. Find out what needs to be emulated and what should not. Emulate democracy there, American democracy. Rights consciousness, freedom. So see what is good and take that. So unfortunately, because somebody else is good economically, you try to. That is how the whole globe has a uniform culture. It is market and GDP. Just recognize these people are good at production and learn. There it should end. Okay. So these are all acculturation, westernization, Sanskritization, Hinduization. Okay. And N.K. Bose gave one interesting analogy, but with some small error in that. Can you tell me what is that analogy N.K. Bose gave?
electricity.
Electricity. But what is an error in that? In the context of tribe, caste, or Hinduization? He said culture flows from, like electricity flows from high potential to low potential. How is that not an exact analogy in Hinduization? In
Because
electricity,
it's too.
exactly. In electricity, nothing flows from low potential to high potential. But in cultural transmission, something from lower end also goes to higher end. This is why you have concepts called universalization and paracalization. Universalization is from high to low. Sorry, from high to low is paracalization. We'll do it in more detail. But from low to high also flows. That is universalization. So cultural traits flow in both the directions. And culture gets transformed. Like monism of Hindu-Buddhist thought influencing Islam. It's both the ways, as we discussed. Hinduism evolved as a result of absorption process. Hinduism does not mean imposition of some Aryan kind or Vedic kind on everybody else. It is not like that. That's one of the observations that Gure made. Hinduism is a result of accommodation and absorption. One reason why Hinduism is tolerant, it is that it really doesn't have anything rigid and specific to it, because that itself is a result of absorption process. There is no one book, there is no one prophet. It is not monoculture. So by very nature, it is combination. Why is it so? Because it is going there and picking up, converting him, giving him a rank, giving him a caste. And in this process, it is becoming something, or it is becoming polluted, or whatever you say. So this is how it is: grouping, ranking, absorption. This is the nature of Hinduism. In fact, so many people said that if Congress was successful, it was successful because it is like a Hindu party. Hindu party means believing in absorption. If somebody defies Congress, he will be out there for some time, and after that, he will be back. That is what is called Congress culture. No offense, whatever you are. Okay. N.T. Ramarao's daughter made Congress minister. That is Congress culture. No offense. Absorption, absorption, absorption. There is nothing like purity. There is no pure Hinduism. There is nothing like that. So that is the reason why Hinduism turned out to be tolerant. Because in its nature, there is nothing specific. That is why we can't say what is blasphemy in Hinduism. Nobody found out what is blasphemy in Hinduism. You are free to say anything about God, including that there is no God. You can be atheist also. No problem. Okay. So that article also shows the nature of Hinduism. Grouping, work allocation, hierarchy, pollution. That is what Hinduism is. That is why Ambedkar is right that you can't really think of Hinduism without caste system. That is the very nature. It is intrinsically linked. That is why we don't have any mechanism of individual conversion to Hinduism. It's all about group conversion. It's all about group conversion. Okay. So this is how tribes are becoming castes. That is one way of looking at it. Tribe caste difference is another way of looking at it. And another way is the way how Hinduism is being formed. Okay. And just to this, add the dimension of Aryan. In all this conversion process, Aryan element is at the higher level. We are including racial element also. There is a hierarchy. Caste means hierarchy. But within that hierarchy, there is a racial element. Aryans were at the top level. Not that everybody at the top is Aryan, but Aryans, statistically, going by frequency, they are at higher level. So this is how class, caste, religion, and race all combined. And this is how Indian society is formed. Tell me, is this clear? There is one more article on ANIASA. I will send it today and you can read. Okay, I did that in a class, but in this article I brought out more specifically and more clearly. So you can read that. So now tell me, is it clear? Race, caste, class, religion.
Sir, sir, you say class is individual, sir, but like class is also a group.
Exactly. How is class? I am bringing just the element of class because is occupational specialization has a class element in it. But then treating it as a group, it is being frozen as a caste. How is hierarchy of a group is determined? Simply by the relationship with mode of production. That is nothing but work. Isn't it? Will landlords, will the people who have land, will they become untouchables in a caste system? No. But landlord can be taken as a class. But then he will be at a higher, maybe at a kshatriya. It is like that. Which means in the allocation of caste, there is a work dimension. Put differently, that is class dimension. Say there is a tribal society which is a class society. Will all of them given one caste? No. Higher classes will get higher castes. I'm just using the word so that you don't think in a compartmental way. You just be flexible. I also use the word says that there are pollution rules even in the class. Isn't it so? Will poor man be treated on par with the rich man? Will poor man have access to rich man's house easily? No. But then extremely diluted forms compared to the caste.
So there is this term called cattle class for the economy who travel in the economy. So it's just
Cattle class.
like they might be up cattle class in the economy flights. So they
Okay.
openly say it's cattle class.
Okay.
The business people say that economy
Yes,
people.
that's true. But this cattle class is a very high class compared to the people who go only by train. Okay. So now tell me the one point on is tribe becoming a caste these days? Hey Vishal, tell me what did you read?
I didn't read the material.
Okay. Vishal?
Tribe is not becoming
Hmm.
caste these days.
Hmm?
Though tribe is not becoming caste these days.
Tribe is not becoming caste these days. That's
Though
a very important point made by, tell me who made that point?
Xaxa.
Exactly. He's called Khaka, Kha. Though the spelling is Xa, he's called Khaka. Okay. So that is one important observation he made. That is, tribes are assertive. They are not becoming castes. So the process of tribe becoming a caste stopped long ago. Okay. So in what ways they are changing? Are they becoming Hinduized?
They are actually imitating modern culture, but the identity of tribal is not retaining from them.
That's true.
So
That's true. So you understood the distinction between culture and identity?
yes, sir.
Okay. What is identity and what is culture?
In a broader sense, culture is something which uh, say culture like the appearance. No, culture is something we follow, like
Way of
uh,
life. Can we say way of life?
way of life.
Culture.
Identity is something that we associate with it. Like this is me. This is that. So, like for example, wearing a sacred thread is an identity for Brahmin.
Okay. Sacred thread is culture, but how about cell phone?
Status symbol. Cell phone is a status symbol.
Cell phone is a status symbol. Sacred thread can be source of identity.
Yes, sir, of course, it can be a source of identity.
Cell phone.
Identity in an economic sense. Like if you hold an iPhone, you are termed as a rich person.
Okay, but for a group.
Cell phone for a group.
For a group. I mean, basically, for a group, what is the difference between identity and culture? For a group. Can you tell me this part of culture definitely has to be an identity? Don't take much time, but count down 30, 29, 28, like that. This is a part of culture which has to be identity.
Deities followed maybe.
Huh? So what is that whole thing called?
Religion.
Religion. Isn't it so? Religion is definitely part of identity system. Technology is not likely to be identity. Identity is something core. The core becomes part of identity. Okay. So that is why people may want to change anything, but changing religion is a more serious thing. That is why religious change is more difficult. That is why technology is easily adopted, but religion, no. Religion comes closer to identity, becomes identity. So if you come across a particular software program which is working better, you adopt. No ego is involved. But if you come across a Buddha who is teaching well, you don't change your God. If you change, people will ask, have you become Buddhist? So that is the reason why there is a lag in cultural change. Some areas of culture change very fast because their ego, their identity is not associated with it. And some areas of culture are not because they are closer to identity systems. So people want to retain their identity but may want to change the culture. But identity is retained through some symbols of culture, through some symbols, some aspects. Religion is a part. And when religion itself is being changed, like tribes becoming Christians, then they will have to think in terms of if we are changing religion, what is it that we have to retain? They were Avos before, but who are Christian Avos now? That becomes important. How are Christian Avos different from Christian Angamis? But then they have to take some elements of their culture only to remain Avo, to remain Angami. So that becomes important. So identity is to remember them or remind them, remember the past as a marker from other groups. They're concerned about sense of we. Culture is various things. Sometimes a group may want to get rid of the oppressive culture, but then they may not want to get rid of their identity. Identity is about what we were at one time, what we are, and what we are going to be. Just like individuals have identities, groups also have identities. So culture and identity are linked. This is how a Hindu woman is supposed to behave. What does it mean? Is it identity or only culture? Identity. Hindu girls can't go to pubs like this. Identity. So do you see fundamentalism also related to identity? If you are a Muslim, this is how a Muslim should be. So these are some issues especially when culture is changing very rapidly. Religion is being converted to Christianity or to Hinduism. So if many aspects of culture are being changed and yet they want to retain that we are still like this, then it is a delicate process, negotiation. What are we? But usually technical part is very easy to change. And as one moves closer to religion, it becomes closer to identity process. The reason why religion is not changed easily is that religion is identity process. And even within religion, some may be more identity related and some less. Even now, if you have to do a puja in a temple, you have to wear a particular dress. If you are wearing pants and then maybe men may wear pants. But have you seen any puja where woman is wearing pants?
In Tirupati or some temples, they sell you dupatta there itself.
They even applied dress code on men. But that code is the external imposition. But even otherwise, have you seen any woman wearing pants and going for puja? Pujari may think, see, that's not the way to do. Nothing to do with exposure to body. In fact, pant and proper shirt will cover more body compared to traditional Hindu dress. But then Pujari may think, no. Because puja is closer to identity. So dress code during puja is closer to identity. And he is our God. So in a cultural change mechanism, closer to religion, identity process. So this leads to what is called cultural lag. Cultural lag. This is one concept. Cultural lag refers to one component changes faster and other component doesn't. One component that can change very fast is technology. People don't think much about technology because they think technology is simply a matter of convenience. It is not linked to identity process, but God, identity process. And many values also, identity process. This is how Hindu woman should, Muslim woman should. So things that are related to identity are very hard to change. non-identity related change fast. So this leads to lag. So Kaka says that tribes are changing fast, becoming stratified, urbanized, Hinduized, all kinds of things are going on, but not with an intention to become a caste. They want empowerment, they want westernization, economic opportunities, but they have no intention of becoming caste. So the conversion of tribe becoming a caste and claiming a higher varna is gone. It is about identities and assertions. This is the age of assertion. So the same thing we discussed about caste also. A lowest caste doesn't want to move up in varna hierarchy, no intention. But doesn't it want economic and political power? It wants. It wants economic power, it wants political power, and it wants to change culture, but doesn't want to become a higher caste and doesn't want to lose its identity. So these are the broader changes. Change culture, get economic power, get political power, but maintain your identity.
Sir, how do they do that? Because anyways, economy will lead to more differences.
Exactly. These are the problems. I asked one Lambada by what is to be a Lambada now? I included the conversations in the notes because there is actual result of one Lambada boy who is going to interview. Now he is in service. I only gave his answers. He's changed in every way, but when I ask him what is to be a Lambada, he has no answer. He said there are something good about Lambadas. We all feel one. That's nice. But how will they continue to feel one when there is so much of competition, urbanization, dispersion? So these are the issues. They want to change in every way, but how does their identity revolve around? That is why we need to find out what we want to change and what we need not change and what we should retain. Blind emulation should not be there, either for a group or for a nation. So cultural relativism can be source to examine what to change and what not to change. I believe in the case of India, there are certain great things in India. What is an ideology? What are the ideas? What are the ideas that this land gave to others? So on that, identity can be formed on more solid foundation. Okay. So there needs to be conscious reflection on what we want to remain, where we want to change. There is an issue, no doubt. And when the things are changing very fast, elders complain that the children are rootless. That's true. In what they should have roots? In everything you are saying that somebody is superior, somebody is worthy of emulation, then what are you? So finally you become something like a feather. All Lambadas should have this feather. I'm just giving. And feather to on one particular occasion. So who is a Lambada? Some dance. And after that, remove the dance. Remove all that. Isn't it? So this is unnecessary uniformity. It's not needed. The West is not so superior, or Hindus are not superior. So that is about tribe becoming caste. Next, tell me what is the important concept here. Supraja, can you talk about the indigenous?
Yes, sir.
Please tell me.
Uh, they are isolated, and
Isolated? Okay.
the main thing is are being threatened.
They're being threatened. Okay. Suppose they are not isolated but threatened. Will they come under indigenous?
Yes, sir. Now, yes, sir.
Okay. Ending of isolation may be the source of threat. So instead of isolated, you say distinct. 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 And threatened. That's true. Okay. Can Brahmins in India be considered indigenous? Supraja, what is your answer?
No, sir.
Why?
Because they are dominant.
They are dominant.
And they can never be threatened.
They can never be threatened. It is others have to protect themselves from their threat. Of course, things have changed so much, but so far, they were the source of threat. Okay. So that's true. Another thing is non-dominant. Non-dominant, distinct, threatened. Now, one very big question is, how about Kashmiris? People of Kashmir Valley, do they come under indigenous? First of all, distinct, yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Yes, no. How?
I think they are not distinct.
They are non-distinct. How can you say they are non-distinct? Kashmir is, don't you think, I mean, I'm talking about Kashmir Valley, not the entire Jammu and Kashmir. Are they not feeling distinct?
They are feeling distinct, but they are not distinct.
You don't grant them. That is interesting. So tell me, that is true. No wonder. That is true. This distinct thing is as per their feeling or others' feelings. That is very important. Distinct as per their feeling or others' feelings.
I think their feelings only.
Their feelings. So you can't say I don't feel they are distinct. They are Indians. So that's very interesting. Distinct according to them, not according to others. To Andhra people, all are Telugus, but only Telangana people felt no, please. If you feel Telugu is the unity, we will speak different Telugu. That's how they started speaking different Telugu. So they have the sense of distinct. Okay, next.
They are not dominant, and
That's true. They are not dominant. So distinct is there, they are not dominant is there. Next.
and yes, they are being threatened.
They are being threatened. Then why are they indigenous?
But no.
Why so? Okay, it may be difficult to guess because in the definition, I mean, I have saw other things. This is supposed to be for simple societies. In that sense, may not be relevant for Kashmiris, though all the other things are very clear. Indigenous people is usually for small, simple societies. Okay, there can be a discussion on this also, I don't know, but in the literature, I mean, in fact, there are other distinctions, other definitions made, and some highlighted the idea that it is for simple society because there are so many problems in the world, and under indigenous, they don't want to cover all kinds of problems. So this is mostly about simple societies, tribal. Though Kashmiris have distinct, threatened issues are there, and indigenous. But they don't satisfy the criteria that they are a simple society. And in the same way, Palestinians also won't come under, may not come under indigenous. If Kashmiris don't come, Palestinians also don't come. So many places where secessionist movement is going on may not come under indigenous. Though distinct and erosion apply, threatened. Okay. So because so many people are claiming to be indigenous and they had to limit to what this concept is relevant. So under that criteria, Kashmiris may not come. So it's about simple societies. Okay. So that is about indigenous. But why did they need to have this concept? Why does one need a concept at a global level? Because the problems are similar. Problems are similar, and so one can focus on what can be the common solutions. Okay, it is in that sense. Then Supraja, we raised some questions. For example, Oraons in Andamans. Will Oraons be indigenous?
If they belong to that region, they
No.
are
Do they?
indigenous.
Do Oraons belong to Andamans? They went from Central India.
Yes, sir.
So will they be indigenous?
No.
No. Same thing about Oraons in Assam. They are not indigenous, though they are called Adivasis by Assamese. Okay. But Nagas in Nagaland, indigenous or not?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Sir,
They're indigenous. Okay.
Orient in Central Asia, Central India are indigenous,
Are
but they are
indigenous.
not indigenous.
They are indigenous.
They
Orions in Central India are indigenous. But they go somewhere, then they're no longer indigenous. Which means the word indigenous cannot be applied blindly to a tribe automatically. If the tribe is staying where they are supposed to, then they are original inhabitants to that region.
But sir, every tribe comes from somewhere. Like no one originates. Like
That is true. That is important point. Every tribe comes. That is why, given the context, when did these people come? Did they come earlier than the competitors? There is a time dimension, pre-colonialism or pre-invasion time. Everyone came somewhere, there is no doubt. But compared to others, pre-colonialism or pre-invasion, which covers reasonable number of years, which means there is a time dimension, culture dimension of distinct, there is a number dimension of minority, and there is a power dimension, that is powerlessness and threatened. All this, and then maybe small scale society. All these things make a group a claim to indigenous status. So that's what indigenous population is. Now tell me, what is the difference between indigenous and Adivasi? Adivasi is an Indian word. which was there before. Indigenous is a global term coined by UN. Now tell me, what are all the differences between indigenous and Adivasi? You can say first difference is that indigenous is a global concept. Adivasi refers to only Indian concept.
You named some few tribes like in central India which were called Adivasi earlier.
They are
like
called
Oraons and
yes. And at some places, they are not called Adivasis. The entire, all the tribes in Northeast, they are not called Adivasis, it seems. Their Adivasi meant migrant. So the use of the word Adivasi is confined only to main India, particularly central India. That is not true of Andaman Nicobar, not true of Northeast. Northeast, Adivasi is a negative word, a migrant who has no business to be here. Okay. So Adivasi has a specific meaning, though literally it means original inhabitants, Adivasi. Adi means early. But Adivasi has different meanings in the context of India, whereas indigenous is technically defined and it is a global concept. It has to be, it is as a global concept, it emerged because people all over the world are facing a similar set of problems. I said this is basically a fight between the stateless and state. Do you agree with this or not? Is it not so? Because who are these indigenous? They're primarily stateless people. And the stateless societies became part of a state. And state is so powerful. So it is a conflict between stateless and state. So indigenous problems emerged when state went about absorbing many stateless.
Sir,
Hmm.
so this LWE activity can be called an attempt to create a state by the stateless?
Which attempt?
Left-wing extremism, sir. Naxalism.
Left-wing extremism, what are they trying to do? They are trying to create a state out of stateless.
Yes, sir, that is what I'm asking. Sir. Is it so?
I don't think so. They want to prevent violence by the state on the stateless. State is encroaching. In fact, left-wing extremism is trying to do what UN is asking every nation to do: prevent resource erosion. But of course, UN is not advocating violent methods to stop it. That is the difference. Isn't it so?
Sir,
If
I think
resource erosion is stopped, will there be left-wing extremism there?
it has changed a lot, sir. No doubt. Like
Left-wing extremism changed.
yes, sir. On
Sure,
the ground, when I
sure, we'll discuss. That is a separate topic. We'll discuss. But the goals of indigenous concept is stop resource erosion and cultural assimilation. These two. Stop resource erosion and cultural assimilation. The villain here is the state. The victim here is the stateless. Cultural erosion, resource erosion and cultural assimilation. Definitely, if a project is constructed and all people are displaced and they are sent to various towns, they become marginalized, assimilated. So resources taken away, identity lost. It is such things the concept of indigenous wants to prevent. You have some questions on aspect of influence of globalization on tribes. That is exactly the indigenous is. Indigenous is a problem of globalization and tribe. Globalization doesn't mean IMF, World Bank and things like that. Globalization is encroachment of states into the stateless. Mining companies, various kinds of land acquisition activities, all because of trade, displacement. So this is one way of looking at the issue, state versus the stateless. And the issue is global. That is why you have the concept of indigenous. So state. So tell me, what are the other things we discussed? Tribe different from caste, acculturation, indigenous. That's all. Next, another thing is tribe as a colonial construct. Have you understood that tribe is a colonial construct? What is meant by a colonial construct? Or it simply means a British construct here. Sunil, you want to say how it is a colonial construct?
So before British rule, there wasn't any naming of tribe. As its tribes were there, but they didn't have name. So British basically classified them into various tribes to better recognize them.
Yes, various groups into one name, that is tribe. Because they didn't know what to call them. So in that sense, tribe is a colonial construct, British construct more specifically. See, we are using the word tribe to host Jarvas, Oraons, Nagas, Mizos. But before that, there was nothing like that, one category for all these groups. That came only during the British rule. Earlier, tribe is seen as something which is not a caste. That may make sense. But then there is no point in looking at a Jarva as a not caste, Angami Nagas as a not caste. So there is some kind of an arbitrariness in the word use of the tribe, and which British used it. So whatever is not caste, they didn't know what to do. They called it tribe, and then they put tribes across, unrelated ones, different races, different levels of economy, even different religions. Okay, maybe one thing common is that simple societies, they are all simple societies only. Okay, so maybe you can say simple societies across India of different races, unconnected, came under one. So tribe is their concept, and scheduled tribe is a legal concept. All the groups that come under. So that is an arbitrary thing. So it is about a law decides whether something is scheduled or not. So some people can be included, some people can be excluded. So scheduled tribe is a legal word for the purpose of certain privileges. Okay. So that is about tribe as a colonial construct.